In this video, we'll be taking a look at the EmpireTech IPC Color4K-T camera. This camera has a 2.8mm lens and also comes in a 3.6mm lens. It's a full 4K 30 frames per second camera, full-time color with two built-in warm LED lights. It has a built-in microphone, it has smart AI, smart motion detection, and also supports a 256 gig micro SD card for edge recording. This camera also has wide dynamic range and is an IP67 all-weather camera. The AI features of this camera include perimeter protection, people counting, face detection, and smart motion detection. In this video, we'll be going over how to set the camera up, the basic functions, and how to set up the AI functions. With this camera with the warm LED lights, you do have an auto and manual control. This is an ultra low light series camera. It's 4K, 8 megapixel, full color network camera. You can power it by 12 volt DC or by PoE. The camera that we're going to be looking at today is the turret model, but it also does come in a bullet camera as well. This camera utilizes the new Web 5.0 interface, and we'll dive right in and take a look. Assuming that you already have the camera initialized, we'll log in with the web browser and take a look at the setup. When we log in, you can see that it brings up our live view. One thing to note is this button right here. If you hover over it, it'll come up, but if you move it, it'll disappear. It just stretches the screen out, and then it moves all the way to the left to bring it back. You can see on our live mode we have the main view that we're looking at now, which will give you the full resolution. And you also can switch to the substream, which is standard definition, and you can see the resolution is a little bit less. We'll go back to our mainstream. One thing to note on the live view is down here you can select full screen. We'll press escape to get out of the full screen mode and get right into our settings. If you notice, we are in the general mode up here. You also can select the face mode. So if we have our face detection on, we can view this mode and watch it populate as it's being tripped. We'll take a look at that in a little bit after we get it set up. To familiarize yourself with the settings, you can see that there's a home button in the top left. This is going to be our main menu button, and if we go there, you'll see that it brings up our main menu. We were just at the live, and we went back to home. One thing that you can also see on the right hand side is, just like if you use the NVR, this is your alarm deactivation activation button. Has an option to change the skin color, which is not active at this time. You can select a different language. You also can log out and restart the camera. You'll have a cog or a gear to the right of that, and it lets you go into other settings that cannot be found on the home screen. Generally, all the settings can be found from your home screen, but again, you can see like your network settings, and we'll scroll through these in just a second. We'll select our full screen mode with border and start going through the menu items. We'll come back over to our home screen. We'll start right out and come down to your system settings. System settings gives you your basic information and also lets you select your date and time. This is where you can select the formatting of your date and time. You can select your hour mode, either 24 hours or 12 hours. You also can set your time zone. You can see you have an account. You can add an account with an expiration time. You can see it is ONVIV compliant. Under Manager, you can set your maintenance, your auto restart if you turn it on. You can set the day of the week and the time. This is where you would also default the cameras. You can default the settings, or you can do a full factory default by clicking the button and entering your password. Underneath is where you'd update your firmware. If you had firmware to update, you could browse your computer, add the file, and press update. You can see when we open a new item, it does the tab view. You can hover over the selection tab and close each one out. Next we'll go into camera mode, and this is where we'll set our image if you needed to adjust. Again, you have brightness, contrast, etc. Under our image settings, you can see all the settings that you can adjust for the camera. Generally, the default settings work just fine. With the new interface, they have done away with the day-night profile settings. You can see what they did. They added a night, general, front light, and a bunch of others. Again, normally default will work just fine. When nighttime comes, it will change over and the LED lights will come on without any manual adjusting, if they are in auto. But let's say, for example, we have some specific circumstances where we need to change some settings. We can set up a time plan down here at the bottom. You can see the time plan setting calendar, and it's based on the month and the time of the day. It also has more than just day and night profiles. You also have general, front light, backlight, strong light, etc. And the profiles are selected with the drop down. By default, it is all set in the day mode for every month and for all times. Normally this setting is fine. For example, your illuminator lights will come on when it gets dark, even though it is set in the day setting. Let's say there was specific circumstances where I'd want to change some stuff. If you used the cameras before, there used to just be a day-night setting. And on some cameras, it did have a time adjustment. They have just added more profiles in a calendar mode. Let's say I wanted to clear this out and put some nighttime settings. For example, right now we're in June. I will ensure that I'm on the night profile and adjust my settings accordingly. Let's say at night mode in June, I want to start at 2100 and go until 0500. I can drag the timeline to set my profile times. I can now go up and change whatever settings I want on the camera for that profile time. Let's say at the nighttime mode, I wanted my white balance for the street lamp to come on. I can select street lamp. I can select any of the settings under that profile, and it will change accordingly and correlate with the times that are set in the time plan. Let's say I needed a little brightness, a little more gamma, a little contrast, whatever settings that you find that you need, and press apply. Now all the changes that I made for my camera settings will be applied at night in the time plan settings. Let's say I want to copy that to July, August, and I'll press apply and it will fill in. I'll go back to my day profile. I'll set these back down to default or close to. Now I'll fill in my time plan setting for the day mode, and I'll just drag that accordingly. If I went too far, it will push my nighttime setting and I will back it off. You can click on the timeline and stretch out your times. And if I wanted to copy, I could copy to the other months as well. Do not get confused with your profile settings with the camera image settings. I don't need to be in the backlight profile to change a backlight setting. It just allows for more time plan setting profiles. I will leave them on default as I have no special circumstances that will require me to change to a day-night setting. You can take a look at your exposure for your shutter. You can turn on 3D noise reduction, which is defaulted on, but you can adjust them as needed. We also have backlight, which gives you the backlight compensation, the highlight compensation, the wide dynamic range, and SSA. You can select white balance, the day-night settings. There's no need to adjust this unless you want a black and white image for some reason. Illuminator for the LEDs. You can manually control these if you'd like, and you can adjust the brightness intensity. We'll leave it in auto, and when we come back this evening, we'll take a look and see how it lights up the deck. Keep in mind that this camera does not have an IR source, so the nighttime images must have some external lighting, either through the camera or through other ambient lighting. It does work well if you do have lighting and you do not have the LEDs on, but if you're troubleshooting and you can't figure out why the picture's dark, make sure that you have the LED lights on. The first image shows when the LED illuminator is off. Then we'll take a look when it is in manual at 100%. Here is the LEDs when they're placed in auto. You also have a defog mode, which you can select on if you live in a foggy area. If you notice at the top, you have a self-adaptive scene. Our next setting will go into the encode. This is where you're going to set your resolution and your frame rates. You can see it defaults to H.265. H.265 is the newer coding format. It is also called the high efficiency video coding, which reduces bandwidth. You can also select your frame rate. 30 frames per second generally is not needed for surveillance, but allows for a more fluid video. And also the bitrate type. CBR is constant bitrate. We can put it down to variable bitrate. The bitrate we have turned up to 8 megs, and I turned it up. You can see you can go all the way up to 16. Keep in mind when you have it turned up that high, it's going to be taxing on your bandwidth, especially if you have more than one 4K camera. Over on your substream, you can take a look. We can have substream 1 and substream 2. I believe 2 is off by default, which it is. And whatever changes you do, be sure to apply. The next tab we're going to take a look is the overlay tab, and this is where you can name your camera. To start out with, we have privacy masking. Let's say I had a hot tub down here that I didn't want to be recorded. I could go ahead and set my mask and enable it, and that area would be blacked out. On our title, we can name the camera whatever we'd like. We'll apply it, and you can see that it changed the name. You also can go ahead and drag this to wherever you like. If you'd prefer it at the top and you press apply, now our title is at the top. And we'll just go back to live view so you can see what's going on. You see that we changed the front deck name up here. We'll go back to our overlay. We'll put this back down to default. You also can align your text to the left or right. down under time title, you can enable the time title and that'll show up. Again, you can move the time wherever you'd like. And if you'd like the week name displayed, you can enable that and press apply. And now we have Sunday added to it. You can scroll through these other settings. You can change the color of the fonts if you'd like. Picture overlay, if you're doing any commercial work or you'd like a picture overlay on top of the image, you could upload it from here. Again, it's a small icon. It only allows 128 pixels. And you can also add a custom title. You can add your face statistics on the main screen. We'll enable that as we'll set it up for demo. And we'll press apply. This camera does have audio. I enabled the audio. And what I like to do is we'll set the ACC mode. And we'll go up to 48K. We'll also change this to AAC. You can see that you have a microphone level. And also this is listed as a speaker volume, but this does not have two-way talk. We'll go back to our home page. We'll now take a look at our AI functions and how to set up IVS, face detection. So we'll go into our AI. You can see you can set the AI by a schedule in a schedule mode, and then you can select the times if you'd like. For this demonstration, we're going to do a general mode, assuming that it's going to be 24/7. As all cameras, you have to have a smart plan for the AI function to work. You cannot have both, for example, the IVS tripwires and face detection going at the same time. You can have an IVS and the motion detection at the same time, and we'll set those up. So we'll select our smart plan in our general mode and we'll press next. For this demonstration, we'll start out and we'll do our IVS or tripwires. You can see we can do people counting, smart object detection, we can put the heat map on, or face detection. We'll start out with our IVS. Press next. We'll start by adding a rule and we'll do a tripwire. A tripwire will be a line crossing. I will draw some lines by clicking on the screen. You can draw a single cross line, but random multiple crossing lines work better. When I'm done, I can right click and then I can set the direction, either coming or going or both. And that direction is right here. A to B, B to A, or both. I can turn up the sensitivity. And again, effective target, human or motor vehicle. If I wanted to catch everything, animals, etc., then I would shut the target filter off. I could set a time plan if I'd like, if I only wanted it at certain times of the day, but I'll leave it the way it is, and I'll press apply. I can add several different rules if I wanted to in a larger area. I'll just add another rule. Again, I'll just draw some tripwires. I'll have it a full-time plan. I could select an event linkage if I was only going to record on an SD card or just when the IVS tripped. I could select record. I could send an email. I could also have an alarm out port, which could trigger an audio alarm or an audio linkage. I'll press apply. We'll bring up the live view and I'll go trip the tripwire. You can see when I broke the tripwires that the IVS tripped and the intelligent features worked. What that does, you can set your phone to get notifications so when the tripwires are tripped that it sends you alerts. It also marks a recorder in the timeline so you can go back and find the tripwires when something happens so you don't have to look for a whole 24-hour period. And now we'll take a look and we can set up, instead of a tripwire, let's add a rule and we'll do an intrusion. Intrusion is going to be a box that we can set. Right click to release. And you can see if anything appears inside the box. Again, you adjust your settings according to the way you like them. I find that the tripwire works better than the intrusions. It's a user preference. I'll refresh. I didn't save it just to get rid of it. We also have a global configuration. It's where you can calibrate your IVS. If you look under the AI rules, you can see you have an on and off toggle switch. You can turn these on and off as needed. If it was going to be a lot of activity and I didn't want all the alarms coming in, I shut them off. Just remember to press the apply button to make them effective. You can see on the right hand side of your target window, this is where you could set a minimum and maximum target size if you'd like, but it is not necessary. Now we'll take a look at the motion detection. Motion detection is going to be listed under your events. Again, under events, you could turn your alarm on if you had an alarm hooked up. You also can set your exception rules, where if you had no SD card or low space, a network error, voltage detection, it can send you an alarm. Under video detection is where we'll set up our motion detection. We'll enable it. You also can do it at a scheduled time. The anti-dither is going to be the delay before the motion detection sets off. When we select our area, by default they'll all be selected. You can uncheck individual boxes, or you can press delete and it will clear the image. Let's say that we just wanted our deck have motion detection. I can drag or click on individual boxes, and anywhere that's red will be in the motion detection area. I also can turn the sensitivity up and a minimum threshold for sensitivity. I press OK, press apply, and you can see we're successful and our motion detection is now active. One thing to keep in mind is if you're recording to an NVR, you have to select your storage in the NVR and set that up for alarms, so your video detection will show up. On your phone app, you would also select video detection to be able to send you alerts. Down under smart motion detection, if we enable this, the smart motion detection is active, and it will filter out everything but human or motor vehicle. And we can deselect motor vehicle in this situation. We can adjust our sensitivity and press apply. Our audio detection, we could turn on audio exception and have an intensity change and set our threshold. What this would do is if somebody's out on the front deck talking, the microphone would pick up what is abnormal. I will apply it. You can see that the microphone is picking me up inside here. So I would get no alarms because I'm below the threshold. If I lower the threshold down, you can see it turns red and would be able to send me an alarm. This is a very handy feature on a lot of cameras that most people do not set up and use. You can see it would take quite a bit to get above the threshold unless I was standing right out by the microphone. Now we'll go back and change our IVS settings. We're going to change our smart plan. And instead of IVS, we'll take a look at the face detection. And we'll do next. You see the warning that says smart motion detection conflicts with the smart plan. The system will disable the conflicted item. So you cannot have face detection and smart motion detection on at the same time. But it looks like you're able to have the IVS and motion detection on at the same time. You can see our face detection module popped up. We'll have to enable the face detection. We'll leave everything pretty much default here. your on-screen display info, you can see it shows you a face detection counter up here at the top left, and we can go to live mode so you can look at that better. So once we enable it, we'll do a face enhancement, and you have an option of a 1-inch photo or just a face. We'll leave it at 1-inch photo. And you can also do a snapshot mode, which is optimized to give you the best image, or you can do real time, which is instant, or again quality priority if you want the best image of a face. We'll leave it optimized, works well. Turn on face exposure. You can brighten up the image and the interval time between face detections. We'll just turn that down a little bit. You also can set it on a schedule if you wanted a time. We'll leave it at full time. Again, you can do an event linkage. If you're recording to the edge or an SD card and you only wanted it to record when events happened, you could send an email, which is kind of obsolete with the smartphone apps. You'll see that we will enable the snapshot, and under advanced mode, you can adjust the angle, threshold, duration, etc. We'll apply the settings. Again, we have a minimum, maximum size, or you can do by pixel count. We'll go back to our live view. This time we're going to switch over to face mode, so you can see it that it captures the faces. You can see the face detection with the description. It actually tries to describe the gender, age, expression, although it is not very accurate, and it can be shut off. With the face detection, you can also set it up with your DMSS app, where it will send you the snapshot image to your phone. You can see under our settings, if we shut off, this is called property, it will stop tagging the face attributes. And you can see on the DMSS phone app, it sends you a snapshot of the face detection. That covers most of the settings in the 4K color camera. Here are some random clips pulled from the camera. It's a really nice full-time color 4K camera with some AI features that work very well. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.